The South African Human Rights Commission in Gauteng is urging people to refrain from sharing the videos of the alleged torture that took place at Zanzou. The videos have since gone viral on social media, showing those patrons, as we've mentioned all morning, being sexually assaulted, allegedly by bouncers at the establishment. The Commission's provincial manager is Zamantungwa Mbeki and joins us now via our videolink. Zamantungwa, thanks for making time and welcome to the SABC News channel. I'm not sure if you were able to see those videos, I beg your pardon. If you were, there must have been very clear human rights violations.
Definitely. I think for me personally, I could not finish the entire video, but I think looking at the comments on social media, one could tell exactly what was going on. But I think you are right. The video is very, very shocking, very, very graphic. But there are clear rights that have been violated for the victim.
Is this a case that the Commission is willing to take on?
Definitely. We, as the previous speaker just spoke now, that it is primarily the case for the South African Police Services. But what we would be doing, obviously, as the Commission, we have opened our own accord investigation, and the first thing that we would want to get a response from is from the Provincial Commissioner on the measures that will be taken going forward and on the current status of this case. But it's very important, as you said earlier on, that for us it's also concerning that there are victims of a sexual assault, of a sexual offence. And we should be treating it in that same light as the Commission. So we're taking it with that sensitivity in mind.
Yeah. How this came to light was through the sharing of these videos. And I suppose as I try to frame my next question, I'm trying to strike a balance between exposing what took place at this particular institution and making sure, of course, that people aren't committing crimes as they do that by sharing images of people who, are very clearly identifiable, are victims of a sexual offense, and quite frankly, are being dehumanized in that torture. How do you reckon members of the public who have good intentions can go about striking this balance?
I think the police are available for that, because when you take and you go open a case, this is the evidence that you would be putting to the police. There's measures and ways of exposing through perhaps writing a statement on social media, but blurring maybe some of the faces. But I think there's some parts of the video where one has to question: is there no right to consent for the victims? How do they feel as the victims? Their dignity, they have been exposed as well. So in the one light, as the previous speaker said, that we want them to come forward, forward as victims. But then also in the other light, they are also ordinary people walking around who've got children, who've got family members. And a very intimate thing, which is a violation, is circulating on all of our phones. It's a hard balance to strike because we want justice for them. But I think that as the victims, perhaps they should have said if they want this to be circulated or not and to consent to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Zama, of course, there are so many questions around what else might have taken place at that particular institution. But as a commission yourself, I wonder if you can take us through some of the questions you have as you inquire about, the possible violations here.
I mean, there's a number of questions that we would be asking ourselves, particularly to the owner. When were they aware? Did they go to the police? As he's coming forward to say he's aware of the incidents, there's certain measures that he must take as the owner of the establishment or stroke the employer, right? Our labor laws are very, very clear about incidences and the protection of patrons and or employees. It's everywhere right now. Were they patrons? Were they employees? We don't know. But nonetheless, the protections as humans as human beings is what is primary here. There's also the question, as I said, of the victim. And I'm emphasizing that we are talking about victims of a sexual assault, as the previous speaker said. So how do we go about protecting their rights? Were their rights violated? in some way in trying to get this information out, but that's not at the forefront. We must make sure that wherever they are protected, and the same services that are afforded to sexual offense victims are also afforded to them, in the protection of their identity, in the protection of their dignity as victims, but to also make sure that the criminal justice system comes forward and does what it's supposed to do. There's a lot at hand. There's a lot for us to balance as the commission, as you put it.
Yeah, and perhaps a word about secondary victimization, which I imagine is still ongoing even as you and I have this discussion. As this particular issue gains traction, many more people, sometimes just out of curiosity, would want to see these videos, and there's a temptation to share them. But again, a balance to be struck here.
Definitely a balance. There was a statement that was issued earlier on about the use of social media by children. When we share it, children have Twitter, children have Instagram, children have TikTok. So as much as we are thinking that we're accessing this information and these images as adults, they're also accessed by children who have access to all of these social media platforms. So as I said earlier on, that we must protect the victims and justice must be served. But for us, we are also concerned about this very tough balance that we have to strike.
Absolutely. All right. Zamantungwa Mbeki, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Zamantungwa is with the South African Human Rights Commission. In fact, she's the Gauteng Provincial Manager.